Welcome to the Cameron McNeish Outdoor Channel. I'm taking the camper for a short drive just now, just to keep things moving and rolling, so I thought this might be a good opportunity to take a look at what campervanning in Scotland might be like this coming summer. As many of you will be aware, Scotland, particularly the Highlands and Islands, saw unprecedented levels of tourism last summer, leading to overcrowding and a lot of so-called dirty camping. I suspect this was due to a number of issues. A lot of people who would normally have gone abroad for their holidays came to Scotland instead. Many campsites remained closed and public toilets in many areas stayed shut. But one thing became very evident: the UK, and not just Scotland, lacks the basic infrastructure for such a sudden increase in stay-at-home tourism. And particularly noticeable was a lack of even a basic infrastructure for the many thousands of camper vans and motorhomes touring in the UK. Now, I hesitate before suggesting COVID-19 and the lockdowns have any kind of a silver lining. But throughout last summer, a lot of people realised something had to be done before we get a repeat of last year's problems. You'll have seen the rather nasty Facebook pages, websites and social media entries by people who think camper vans should be banned, that there should be bylaws restricting the use of camper vans and motorhomes, and that users like us were responsible for all the dirty camping and litter problems that were seen throughout the country. My advice is forget all that stuff. Ignore the social media hype. The good news I want to bring you is that those with real responsibilities for tourism in Scotland don't go along with all that nonsense. And I think that good news can be encapsulated in a conversation I had with Colin Simpson, the Principal Tourism Officer at Highland Council, and this is what he told me. Our role at Highland Council is to welcome visitors, no matter how they travel. Our role is not to turn people away, but to see what we can do to help them. He then went on to tell me what some of those things were. A £1.5 million visitor investment strategy that includes £300,000 to cover the cost of 10 new seasonal rangers, £200,000 for motorhome facilities and £60,000 to improve and increase public toilet facilities. He also said significant spending on more infrastructure was needed, but that was a long-term objective. Meantime, the council will be spending some £1.5 million immediately to try and help improve the visitor experience for the summer. The council said it would work with groups such as the Cairngorm National Park Authority on some of these plans. And indeed, I've been involved in a small working group to try and create a world-class welcome for campervanners and motorhomers here in the Cairngorms National Park. And the first thing we've been doing is creating a map of the park with all the relevant information you might need to visit, where toilets are, where disposal points can be found, campsites, shops, where to buy gas, all those bits of information that might be helpful to you when you come here on your holiday. The Highland Council proposals also include creating a network of continental European-style stopovers for campervans and motorhomes. We know them as AIRs. The Council's been working with organisations like the Campervan and Motorhome Professional Association, Visit Scotland and the Scottish Government to find ways of better accommodating campervan and motorhome users. They want to create a site which could accommodate up to 30 vehicles in North Kessock on the Black Isle near Inverness. That's just over the Kessock Bridge. They've also sought feedback from communities and landowners across the region about setting up other small-scale sites. Communities around the NC 500 in Lochinver, Helmsdale, Bonnabridge and Cromarty have plans to develop overnight parking sites for motorhomes along the lines of similar ones already provided at places like Kinlochbervie. Some of you might know that little air. And a community at Mallaig has crowdfunded to raise cash to build a new toilet block and disposable site on the outskirts of the West Highland town. And there's further good news from the Moray Council. A go-ahead has been given to create 5 new areas for motorhomes and campervans in Moray. The council is to spend £150,000 to set up the sites at council-owned land at Birkhead, Portnocky, Portgordon, Ballindalloch and Craigellachie. And a councillor from Moray told me for too long motorhomes have been seen as a problem and not as potential. More visitors support more local jobs and a stronger recovery for the whole of Moray. Finally, last summer Forestry and Land Scotland, formerly the Forestry Commission, trialled a stay the night scheme at some of the forestry car parks. They apparently had a huge response to the trial and are currently considering if they should open up the scheme again this summer. I should say they've also had a pretty negative response from some existing campsite operators, but I guess that shouldn't surprise us too much. A lot will depend on how much those operators can influence them, but be encouraged by the fact that the Scottish Government intervened on our behalf last year when Forest and Land Scotland prematurely cut their trials short because of pressure from campsite operators. I made a wee video about that at the time, which you can still see in the channel. Okay, all this good news is of course subject to lockdown restrictions being eased, and it goes without saying that if we want to see a continuation of better infrastructure, then we have to play our part too. Don't leave litter. Don't dump waste. Don't block gates and driveways. Please leave no trace of your passing. If you park informally somewhere for the night, try and leave that place in a better state than you found it. Scotland has the best access arrangements in the world, but remember those arrangements are about responsible access, and they're all about pedestrian access. The laws don't include vehicular access. Get a hold of the Scottish Outdoor Access Code if it's your first visit to Scotland, and get to know what you can do and what you can't do. I'll leave the details of how you can get a copy of this down below. Okay, last word. If you can, book ahead. Don't just assume you'll be able to park overnight informally as you've done in the past. Everything I've mentioned is a work in progress. All the new areas won't be ready, I'm sure, for this summer, so please be patient. And any help we can give along the way, like picking up litter and laybys and car parks and the like, will strengthen our case when it comes to convincing people that all the visitors who travel to Scotland, campervanners and motorhomers are the most responsible. So that's it. Stay safe, travel well, and Kid Mila Falcha. 100,000 welcomes to you. See you next time.